be strong, because we do not have the right to be weak. Our total land area is approximately 9.6 million square kilometers, and our ocean area is 4.73 million square kilometers. The splendid rivers and mountains left by our ancestors, who cleared thorns and thistles, are rich in resources, vast in territory, and abundant in products. Here, industrial output value is unrivaled globally, and 1.4 billion compatriots live and multiply endlessly. However, as the ancient teaching goes, a common man is innocent, but possessing a treasure makes him guilty. The mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas beneath our feet, the fertile fields before our eyes, and the blue sky and universe above our heads, these are the treasures we must guard. In the eyes of the wolves circling around us, this is a gluttonous feast. If we slacken even slightly, we will become the feast for these circling wolves. Why must China be strong? Because we are the oldest continuous civilization on Earth. Hua-She civilization began in the chaos of Pangu, creating the world. Was inherited from the ingenuity of Nua, creating humans. Became famous through the glory of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, and continued through the public-spirited rule of Yao, Shun, and Yu. It flourished in the Xia, Shang, and Zhao dynasties, lands of rites and music, was unified in the strong Qin, where carriage tracks and writing were standardized. Grew mighty in the great Han, where those who offend the mighty Han will be punished no matter how far away. Became magnificent in the prosperous Tang, where envoys from 10,000 nations bowed before the crown. Grew wealthy in the rich Song, depicted in Along the River during the Qingming Festival. Became vast in the fierce Yuan, whose iron cavalry trampled across Eurasia, and stood staunch in the Great Ming, where the emperor guarded the gates of the country, even though it once declined in the closed-door Qing and struggled in the Republic of China, where the land was shattered. Ultimately, it was rejuvenated in the new China that changed heaven and earth and is now flourishing with high spirits to this day. Why must China be strong? Under the whole heaven, every spot is the sovereign's ground. Wherever our footprints reach, civilization takes root and integrates. Chinese civilization is self-contained yet inclusive, like the sea receiving 100 rivers, capable of embracing 56 ethnic groups or even more. We are the descendants of gods. Pangu created the world for us. Nua fashioned our human forms. And the investiture of the gods lists the names of our ancestors. We do not need to invent a god to believe in. We only need to kneel to heaven, to earth, to our parents, and to our ancestors. We are the descendants of kings. The kings of every dynasty took the unification of the world as their duty. They inherited the mandate of the previous dynasty and built the great achievements of their time. They expanded the territory, united the hearts of the people, marshaled their power across the 4 seas, and gathered all into a nation. We are all students of the saints and sages. Our ancestors left us tens of thousands of years of knowledge and wisdom. No matter what happens in the world today, we can find experience and lessons from our history. Such historical depth and national magnitude destined that we absolutely do not have the option of surrender. We can bend our waists to farm the land, but we can never bend our knees in surrender. Our destiny is only to rise unceasingly, living and growing forever. Why must China be strong? Because the scars of history hurt forever. The blood feuds of our ancestors remain unavenged. And the memories of humiliation are etched in our bones. To forget is to betray. In the Jiawu War of Japanese aggression against China in 1894, the Beiyang fleet was completely annihilated, and the Treaty of Shimonoseki required an indemnity of 300 million taels of silver. 1900, the Eight-Nation Alliance invaded China, turning the prosperous capital into a purgatory. And the Boxer Protocol required an indemnity of nearly 1 billion taels of silver. At the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, Gu Weijun spoke impassioned words at the negotiating table for Shandong's sovereignty. Every word weeping blood, yet what he got in return was a piece of paper, a division of spoils by the powers ignoring justice. In northeast China in 1931, the Japanese Kwantung Army, using merely a bombed section of railway as an excuse, brazenly launched the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. That was a nightmare of Japanese aggression lasting 14 years. With 35 million compatriots killed or wounded, more than half of China fallen, the land shattered, and the people plunged into misery. And in those Western history museums, historical artifacts stolen from China, representing China's splendid civilization, are still kept and have never been returned. History tells us with bloody facts, weak nations have no diplomacy, and the weak do not deserve to speak. The lives, property, and even dignity of the weak are not worth mentioning. In 1993, during the Yinhe incident, the US, based on trumped-up charges, forcibly detained and inspected our cargo ship in international waters. In the 1996 Taiwan Strait crisis, 2 US carrier battle groups intruded into the Taiwan Strait as if entering an unpopulated land. At that time, we moved Army artillery onto Navy decks. If firepower wasn't enough, we added tanks. If warships weren't enough, we added fishing boats. If accuracy wasn't enough, we planned to get close and then fire. In 1997, the US F-22 Raptor made its maiden flight, leaving our J-8 3 full generations behind technologically. Facing this desperate gap, we tragically proposed the extreme 8-for-1 tactic.
Preparing to sacrifice 8 fighter jets to deplete the opponent's missiles, just to buy the J-8 one nearly impossible chance to attack.
In 1999, NATO, led by the US, brazenly bombed our embassy in Yugoslavia. 3 Chinese journalists sacrificed their lives on the spot, and the martyrs' blood stained the ruins of Belgrade red.
In 2001, in the skies over the South China Sea, a US reconnaissance plane intruded into our airspace
and collided with our fighter jet. Pilot Wang Wei shed his blood in the sky, his life frozen at 33. He left only one sentence: "I can no longer return. You continue to advance." 81192 became a pain that Chinese people cannot let go of. In 2016, during the South China Sea arbitration farce, the US plotted evil, attempting to stir up disputes without bloodshed. 2 carrier battle groups, dozens of warships, over 150 fighter jets, and 12,000 US soldiers. Although our Navy then was not as strong as today, we no longer retreated. The Liaoning carrier went alone to meet them. 4 admirals commanded on site, and the elites of the 3 major fleets were all deployed, emptying our pockets. Veterans were recalled, and soldiers wrote wills, ready to die for their country. That summer, our country thought of every way to die, but the only thing we didn't think of was giving up. Even if we had to sacrifice the entire Navy and half the Air Force, we would sink all the military forces deployed by the US in the South China Sea to the bottom of the ocean. Therefore, backwardness invites beatings, and weakness inevitably invites bullying. Therefore, we have no choice but to become strong, stronger, and even stronger. When the ballistic trajectory of the Dongfeng 5C measures the universe and cuts through the sky, when the steel body of the Fujian carrier cleaves the waves in the deep blue sea, the whole world finally understands China's power. From intercontinental missiles covering the globe to launching asteroid impact defense plans. From the J-20's dry land, onion pulling vertical climb into the clouds, to the Type 055 10,000-ton destroyer cruising the 4 seas, and then to the magnificent scene of the Zhutian drone carrier unleashing thousands of drones like a beehive. Our motherland has turned science fiction into reality, step by step. Back then, our decks were filled with Army artillery. mocked and ridiculed by the world. Today, our decks are empty and spacious, yet they are as silent as cicadas in winter. Once, we only had wills of steel. Now, our steel also has a will. Only those good at fighting can stop wars. Only those capable of fighting can talk peace. We must be strong, because the range of a cannon is the eternal truth of this world. Only when the sword in our hand is sharper will those who covet us become quieter and sit down to reason with us. Facing the close-in harassment of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force's F-15J fighters, our J-15 carrier-based aircraft no longer offer symbolic escort warnings, but directly activate fire control radar for lock-on. This invisible electromagnetic ripple, like a thunderclap, declares a change in the rules of the game. The safe distance is not decided by you, but by the range of our missiles. We must be vigilant, because the opponent has never given up. Japan has long been mired in geographical insecurity and has a millennial obsession with swiftly switching homes. Frequent earthquakes and tsunamis fill them with fear of the land beneath their feet, and this fear alienates into covetousness for the continent. From Toyotomi Hideyoshi to the Tanaka Memorial, and now to coordinating with U.S. strategic intentions, delusionally attempting to pull chestnuts from the fire on the Taiwan Strait issue, their ambition has never been extinguished. They not only pester unreasonably in legal terms, but also act as America's overseas arsenal militarily, even plotting to lay their hands on nuclear weapons. Now, the times have completely changed. Today's China is no longer the Qing dynasty of 1894, nor the Republic of China of 1945. Facing such robbers who only believe in, I'm right because I'm weak, and I'm even more ruthless when I'm strong, Confucius' benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faith have become ineffective. Only iron-like strength is the language they understand. To avoid risks and fill production capacity, the U.S. does not hesitate to rear a tiger to cause trouble, condoning Japan's military expansion and war preparations, even tacitly allowing it to touch the nuclear threshold, attempting to outsource risks through offshore balancing. But they have all seriously misjudged the situation. The electromagnetic catapult of the Fujian carrier, the death stare of the J-20, the doomsday whistle of the Dongfeng Express, and the saturation strike capability of the Type 055 destroyer, these are the absolute truths for maintaining peace. All camouflage and vague statements will shatter like bubbles in the face of absolute strength. If we are not strong enough, the world will bear its hideous fangs. From outsourcing risks to allies in the National Security Strategy Report, to condoning Japan's military expansion, the U.S. intends to interrupt China's rejuvenation process through war. If we are not strong enough, the conspiratorial disaster of the Russia-Ukraine war will be directed to the east, and Western powers will use war proxies to drag us down. If we are not strong enough, the steel torrent from the north will once again covet the million square kilometers of fertile soil and endless resources in the northeast. If we are not strong enough, the Indians will ascend the roof of the world, aiming tens of thousands of artillery pieces at our hinterland. If we are not strong enough, the islands in the South China Sea will be nibbled away by surrounding countries, and those reefs will turn into unsinkable aircraft carriers of other nations stuck in our hearts. So please cherish the current tranquility. We can lie peacefully in bed scrolling through our phones, go out without fear of being shot in the head, and sleep without worrying about explosions. It is not because the world has become peaceful, but because we were born in a peaceful and powerful China. Look at the people in war-torn countries rummaging through trash heaps for moldy food, their eyes having long lost any hope for tomorrow. Stray bullets from across the border explode just a few meters from our boundary markers. And as the smoke clears, our soldiers remain tall and immovable, because no one dares to take a single step further into Chinese territory. Why? Because the scanning beams of China's radar arrays can pierce through 10,000 meters of clouds. Because the tail flame trajectory of Dongfeng missiles can cross continents. Mission guaranteed. Because the J-20 fleet and the Jutian drone fleet parked on the deck of the Shandong carrier are spreading their steel wings, ready to launch. And even more, because the 2 million Chinese People's Liberation Army soldiers, their combat boots have worn down high mountains and steep ridges, and their tightly gripped steel guns guard the darkness and the dawn. This peace was bought by 1 generation, suffering the hardships of 3 generations, and 1 generation fighting the wars of 3 generations. It is Qian Suisen's trajectory, Yumin's configuration, Deng Jiaxian's 2 bombs and 1 satellite, and the sacrifice and dedication of countless ancestors that have given us the confidence to say no to the world today. From Gu Weijun's anger and helplessness at the Paris Peace Conference to Qiao Guanhua's hearty laughter when the seat was restored at the UN, now to facing Sanae Takaichi's wild clamor that a Taiwan contingency is a Japan contingency, what we give is no longer a verbal warning, but an all-around, high-dimensional strike from legal, historical, and strategic perspectives. Reaching for the moon in the 9th heaven has come true. Catching turtles in the 5 oceans is certain. Only those good at fighting can stop wars. Only those capable of fighting can talk peace. We must be strong, because the range of cannons and the swarms of drones are the eternal truths of this world. Only when the sword in our hand is sharper will those who covet us become quieter and sit down to reason with us. From Pangu creating the world to the Fujian carrier being commissioned. From you dividing the 9 provinces to the 5 continents coexisting. Chinese civilization is passed down without interruption. China's road is paved with the bones of martyrs. China's flag is dyed with the blood of martyrs. This flourishing age is bought by countless loyal souls like 81192. On this blue planet, the children of Wuxia have no second path to walk, only to constantly become stronger until we return to the peak. Because our name is China. Long live the People's Republic of China! Long live the Chinese people! Long live the great unity of the Chinese nation!